We have a midweek slate of Premier League action to look forward to. Every game will be live on the talkSPORT network too. Standout clash is tonight, and that is Newcastle United versus Spurs. We'll check in with our friend of the show and talk to the Spurs podcaster, Chris Cowlin, ahead of that one. I want to know how he's feeling. A horrible moment for Spurs and Thomas Frank at this point of the season. Also going to talk Fulham versus Manchester City. We'll hear the entire of Pep's press conference from that one. That's only because it lasted 2 minutes and he was off. Twitter Corner, we're talking Mo Salah. Dan will be happy to hear. Was he dropped or was he not? We're not going to just talk that, Dan. I was just saying that because you were really disgraceful earlier on. But we'll be talking Mo Salah, and if the Liverpool legend is on his way out at Anfield, what does the future hold? And we'll take a quick look ahead as well to some of tomorrow night's games too. This is The Social here on talkSPORT2.
The talkSPORT2 Social.
Well, there are atmospheres, and then there is St James's Park. Gordon rolling it in. It's Barnes!
Who saw this coming? Everton 1, Newcastle 4. Newcastle picking up their first away win of the season.
That was a tough game, and this one will be no different.
Vicario's coming to the right fullback position, and he's in a right pickle, and they've bent it in with Wilson! It's 2-0! They're not putting enough points on the board at home. They're playing negatively. There's the full-time whistle, and listen to those boos! I think there might be a frank exchange of views after that.
For me, that can't be true Tottenham fans. They should back the players throughout 90 minutes, no matter what.
This is becoming toxic now. Used to call the fans, didn't they, the 12th man, and obviously they're working now for the opponent.
Big question marks over Thomas Frank at the moment.
He's never been under the microscope as much as what he has now.
If we don't win, there will always be a frustration. My job is to make sure that we do everything we can to perform, but can we do that together?
Tottenham manager Thomas Frank has doubled down on his post-match comments that saw him criticise Spurs supporters for booing goalkeeper Vicario. The Italian made a mistake that led to Fulham's second goal in the 2-1 Premier League defeat on Saturday. Frank called the reaction unacceptable and said they were not true fans. He's sticking to his opinions.
I don't know. And you can say, how do you define a true Spurs fan? I think all the fantastic fans we have, I believe they're true Spurs fans. Some react in one way, some react in another, someone a little bit in between. No matter what, we need all of them.
Spurs manager Thomas Frank there talking about the unacceptable nature of some so-called Spurs fans. Let's welcome in Chris Cowlin now from the Spurs Chat podcast. Chris, mate, I think the last time we spoke off memory, let me know if I'm wrong, was when we was about to play you, I think, and things were looking all right and it looked like it was a bit positive. What's gone on? Is this much ado about nothing? Is this been blown out of proportion and Frank's doing all right? Or is this a true reflection of what's going on?
Yeah, I think it is. First of all, Flex, Dan, good afternoon to you. Thanks for having me on. And Thomas Frank has managed Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the Premier League for 7 games. We've heard boos either at half-time and at full-time. I think that says it all. 5 out of the 7 games. The football hasn't been entertaining. Of course, you know as well as I do, you know, being a football fan, when you win matches, you don't necessarily need to entertain the fans. You know, fans accept it when you're winning football matches, but the football has been pretty dire. Thomas Frank came in. Defensively, we were much better. Formation-wise now, we're changing formations week by week, game by game. You know, taking the last, 10 days or so, 3 games, Arsenal away, PSG away, the Fulham home game, 3 different formations, 3 different matches, 3 different defeats. But the fan base are very, very unhappy. The thing about the Thomas Frank comments and Pedro Porro's post on social media, I think when you say anything against the fans, I don't think that's ever going to go down well. And Thomas Frank has been saying a number of things in the last couple of weeks that have riled up the fans, to put it politely. And that opening clip there of all the pundits and all the TalkSport journalists talking there, it just sounds so depressing. And
they have a knack of doing that.
Yeah, and the thing is, Flex, like the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, booing now seems to be very normal. Empty seats seem to be very normal now.
Is that right, Chris? Sorry, on that one, Chris. The bit about the fans, actually, you know, I do think the criticism for the team and how you're playing, and you know, when I went to watch I went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for our game when we drew 2-2. And that first half performance, mate, from Spurs, I was like, wow, it's true what they're saying. They literally can't attack. It's really bad football. But is Thomas Frank right, though, about the booing of Vicario in that moment? He's made a mistake. That's something that opposition fans would do, really. You know, when a keeper makes a mistake and every time they get the ball for the rest of the game, they go, away, and can't repeat the rest. But, like, what good is that going to do for his own fans to do that during the game?
Absolutely. I think, for me personally, I've never ever booed a player or a manager or indeed my football club in any match, regardless of what game or performance I've seen. I've never booed any individual. I don't think that's going to help them during a game. Thomas Frank has come out and said a number of times now that the fan base are entitled to boo at half-time or full-time, but you don't mock one of your own players. As a goalkeeper, when you've made a mistake like that, that would have been eating him up inside anyway. He would have known that he's made a glaring error. And, it was a terrible performance from Tottenham again. But, like you alluded to there, Flex, about the Manchester United game, in the opening 45 minutes, we didn't have a shot on target. No. We've had multiple games like this where we've had whole halves without a shot on target. The Chelsea home game, we had one shot on target in the first half. We came out, we were still 1-0 down at half time and no shot on target in the second half. So performances, particularly in the final third, have not been good enough. Football fans want to be entertained. Thomas Frank himself said a couple of weeks ago, we're in the entertainment business. We certainly haven't been entertained. There are a lot of fans that have lost the confidence in Thomas Frank. And I feel like he is losing fans day by day at the moment. I'm still completely on the fence because we've been through so many different managers. Every single time I come on here year after year, we seem to be talking about a different manager. We've gone round in circles so many times. Exactly. But what I would say with that is that we have to see progression. We have to see progressive performances. We have to see positives in games. And recently, you could say the PSG game, it was a more entertaining game. We still shipped 5 goals. That Arsenal game, we went 5 at the back, still shipped 4 goals. Didn't look like we were going to score a goal at all. And this is the problem. Yes, we do have players out injured. Solanke, Maddison, Kulusevski, they could certainly improve the team. But, to go into a North London derby the way that we did and didn't show any aggression, no fight, no passion, no desire, that is not good enough. And Thomas Frank needs to get these players up for these games. But there are a lot of reports at the moment coming out saying that, the players are just confused on what they're doing because we're playing so many different systems and formations. So it does seem to be a little bit of a mess, but as you guys know in football, it can turn around very quickly. I've just driven 5 hours to Newcastle, just about to go to the game. I'm living in hope, that we're going to get a result. But
Chris, listen, mate. Listen, you are very dedicated. That is a tough ask. Ask,
Chris.
You never know. You never know in football, do you?
True. No, true. I mean, I was at a game at the weekend, Villa playing bottom of the league, Wolves, and they gave us a scare at times. So I guess things can happen. Chris, I find this one a really difficult situation to judge because I feel sorry for the Spurs fans for various reasons. I actually feel a bit sorry for Thomas Frank as well because I don't think he's a bad manager at all. I, in fact, think he's a good manager. Do you think if it had been the home games where Spurs had picked up more points rather than the away games, there'd kind of be a little bit more leeway? Because I've seen you win a couple of away games this season and do okay and score some goals. I take your point that the football's not entertaining, but you haven't been good at home now for a long, long time, even before Thomas Frank came in. So I guess that frustration has been there pre-Frank, but it's now been exasperated by what you're seeing at home under Thomas Frank. Do you think there'd be a little bit more leeway if it was flipped?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, Dan. And, people pay a lot of money. A lot of fans go on about how much money they pay on season tickets. And, it's very expensive, one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive in the Premier League at Tottenham. So people expect premium entertainment and premium players. And I think it's very fair to say as well that, yes, you're absolutely right in that home form wasn't very good either under Ange Postecoglou. In 2025, our home record in the Premier League is abysmal. And it's also fair to say that we should have done a lot more in the summer transfer window for Thomas Frank as well and given us a real chance. I don't want to rub it into Flex about us winning the Europa League, but that
Please
should have been a
crack on with that. Do that all
I can't stand Spurs anymore because of that. Didn't mind them
that should have been that should have been a springboard for us to go on to bigger and better things. And when you look at or even compare the transfer windows that Manchester United and Spurs had, you would have thought that Manchester United went on and won the Europa League and not Tottenham. But I would have thought that the transfer window would have been a lot better. But equally so, like I said earlier, Thomas Frank needs to get the best out of these players. Tactical versatility and flexibility is what Thomas Frank is known for. And you're absolutely right, Dan. Thomas Frank is not a bad manager. He's got vast experience in the Premier League. We know that he can do it at this level. We know that he can get the best out of players, but we just haven't seen enough of it yet. And sadly, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it is pretty dismal. And there is this bit of disconnect at the moment with the players, the manager and the fans. And it feels really sad, actually, because Spurs are 12th in the league table and officially mid-table team because we're 6 points away from top, 7 points away from the bottom three. So we're in no man's land. So
Chris,
where do we go from here?
Chris, I wanted to ask you this. I know not a lot of fans, we don't tend to have this thing called patience. But Daniel Levy's finally left the football club. What's that? He's been there, 20 years, 25 years, something like that? Yeah. He's been there for a hell of a long time. There's been big... so that's a big change for the football club. You've changed manager. You lost 22 games last season. You're coming from 17th in the league. Does there not need to be a little bit of patience?
You sound like Thomas Frank now, Blake.
Because I do, as much as I would laugh and, I kind of enjoy it that you're struggling a little bit after what happened in Bilbao, etc. But there is a bit of me that's like, I don't know, like this is his first time up at this level, so you got to kind of let him grow into the role, give him some back-to-back transfer windows. Maybe January, now that Daniel Levy's not there, will we see Spurs go on the aggressive? This is kind of like a new Spurs. We don't really know what it looks like. You're trying to build a new one.
But it isn't easy. I listened to a podcast earlier and it's just a rebrand, essentially. They're now calling themselves the Lewis family instead of
is that,
I know Levy's
the
not there,
gone,
but it's the same. It's the same. Chris will know better than me. But
is that right, Chris? Is it actually just basically the same thing?
Absolutely the same. But we've heard many times. Thomas Frank has said in the presses as well that they want to show ambition. They want Spurs to win trophies on a regular basis. So the proof in the pudding is obviously going to be in the summer window. I'm not making excuses here, but the January windows are always very difficult. So we will see if this is a different Spurs ambition, and are we going to go, in the right direction in the summer and go serious in these transfer windows. But I get what you mean. Thomas Frank has come in, but at the same time, like I've said, he has to show positive signs in these games, and these players have to show positive signs in these games because we've got a squad that is much better than being in 12th place right now. I'm not saying that we're going to be sitting in the top four, but we need to show ambition, and we also need to show some desire and some passion in games. And I referred back to that North London derby. That was one of the worst North London derbies I've ever seen in my lifetime. You could have some mediocre players in your team like we did in the 90s, but you still saw that they went for it and they were up for it in games, and we certainly weren't up for that one.
Yeah, they were definitely fine. Our producer during the show was talking to Dan and I, and he sort of was suggesting that maybe Frank, he's just not that guy. Like Graham Potter, when he done really well, Osterson's done amazing at Brighton. It's like, can't wait for him to get a big job. Everybody likes him. He's done a great job at Brighton. Same with Thomas Frank. He's done, family club, Brentford. Look how much he's done on the budget, tactically flexible. But then when they go to that next level, it just might not be it. Are you getting those vibes from Thomas Frank, or do you think this is maybe wrong manager, wrong time, or he just isn't that guy?
We'll see, Flex. We'll see in the next couple of weeks. I think this is a huge week for him. Newcastle away, and then of course his old side Brentford visit the Tottenham Stadium on Saturday. That is going to be an absolutely massive game.
Is that it then? If you take a heavy loss tonight, and I'm sorry, I'm painting a real horrible picture for you here because you're in Newcastle right now.
It's what Flex does on the regular.
I'm just asking. I'm going to ask the question. If you get a really bad loss tonight, which, listen, can happen up at Newcastle any day, even if you're playing well, and then you lose to Brentford at home, do you think that could be curtains?
I think it could. I think it could, yeah, because I think the fan base, as I said, is increasingly frustrated. Day by day, he's losing more fans, particularly what he said in press conferences. And as you guys know, this is a results business. You know, he's a very nice guy, but it don't get you anywhere being a nice guy. You need to win football matches. But for what you said earlier about, could he be the wrong guy at the wrong club? It does have, and a lot of people have said this on our podcast as well, that it does have the Nuno Espirito Santo vibe about it when Nuno come into Tottenham, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, because he's not a rubbish manager, but is it what Tottenham need? Is it the right fit? Chris, listen, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Sorry it's in bad circumstances. Before you go, you are up in Newcastle. Give me a score prediction for your team tonight.
Well, I wouldn't have got in the car if I didn't think we were going to win, so I'm going to go 2-1.
I love that.
What are you going for?
4-1 Newcastle, mate. I'll be honest. I'll be honest,
mate.
2-0 Newcastle.
Dan's going 2-0. Wouldn't even give you a goal. Wouldn't even give you any limbs. No away day limbs up in the gods. All them steps. Get in there early, mate. We all know how horrible it is up there. Nice one. Chris Cowlin there. God, he sounds down. Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast there, Dan.
He's a reasonable guy as well. Like,
he is.
Sometimes people go on at managers, and I wouldn't really have to listen to what they're saying. But I know Chris knows what he's talking about. He's a good guy. For him to be sounding unsure tells me that there's problems.
That means he definitely is unsure.
Yeah.
You are listening to talkSPORT2 Social with William Hill, 18+. GambleAware.org. Next up, we'll look.